And welcome back, everybody, to another week at Beyond the Trailer Park. So, as you may have noticed, we had to change things up a little bit, so my apologies. Our guest for this week, Teresa McBain, has been under the weather, so we wish her the best, and we hope she's feeling better soon. And we will reschedule to have her back on as soon as possible. But we do have a fun-filled show lined up anyway, and of course, my fabulous co-host over there in Pennsylvania is with us. Beth, how are things over there in the boonies?
Oh, it's boony as ever.
Yes. Well, and you're still sporting.
Changed.
Still sporting the Pastafarian look, but the good news is you will be getting that fixed before too long. Yay!
Yes, on the 27th, barring any issues with my pre-op, my right eye will be done. On the 11th of May, my left eye will be done. And then 2 weeks after that, I will hopefully have new eyeballs, i.e. glasses, and with luck, I will have what they will consider full correction. They'll be implanting...
That's amazing.
Yes, they will be implanting 2 lenses, one in each eye, which will be... Woo! Wrong headphones. They'll be set for distance vision, and I'll still have to wear glasses, but I've had glasses since I was 13, so it's not that big of a deal. So, barring any complications with either my neuro appointment, which is still 3 weeks away, or my pre-op, which is another month, hopefully I'll have my eyeballs back. Yeah. And I will be ever so happy because I'm really sick of not being able to see. My vision my vision in my right eye is 2,400. So, yeah, I am beyond...
What the fuck is that even? Like...
Well, let me put it to you this way. She had a big, I'm going to say, maybe a foot across, E/W, and she was 3 feet away, and I still couldn't see it with my right eye.
Damn. Now, I will say I'm so nearsighted that I wouldn't be able to tell you that was an E at the top of the chart if I didn't already fucking know that. I'd be like, yeah, it's a square.
Got it memorized?
Yeah. You know what? I actually do have some of the chart memorized. Yes.
That's a truck.
I'll get to you in a minute. And of course, we have our lovely mouth of the South over there, Miss Ashley.
Hey, howdy, y'all. How are you?
Oh, not too bad.
I'm very excited that Beth is finally getting her eye surgery, but yes. I won't be able to. I mean, it's like every time I look at her now, I just want to go, "Eye mate, you want to walk the plank?"
Yeah. No offense, Ashley, but I'm getting sick of the pirate jokes. Because I get them downstairs as well. Even my dad got in on it today, and I was like, I haven't seen you since the 1st, and I haven't even talked to you since the 1st, and he's already starting that shit. I'm like,
damn it, Ashley.
Of gold.
Ashley, I think that means we have to cancel the parrot from Amazon.
Oh, wait a minute. It's
no birds. I hate birds.
Oh my God!
Birds belong in nature.
Stuff that's gonna roll up in her driveway.
Yeah.
I don't have a driveway, so you're shit out of luck.
It's gonna roll up her street.
That must have been Bobby did that because it just shifted down to your boobs for a second. And speaking of which, Miss Ashley is bringing her other half with her this week, Bobby C. Good to see you, sir.
Hey guys, how you doing?
See, on this show we can act out, so I have to make it known that I had to pay you to come on the show with sex.
That does help.
Well, she did.
Reverse cowgirl is my favorite.
Yeah, you can say fuck on this show.
Okay.
Yes, you can.
I'm so used to being PG-13 now that I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to say anymore.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yes,
cool.
Anything goes. Okay.
There's my one cuss word for the night.
Oh, great.
Look,
I somehow.
I am pretty
What's
sure.
that?
I'm pretty sure by the time we get into your topic tonight that there'll be. I'm still a little riled up from last night, so.
That's okay. We are here to facilitate the expression of said rile. But before we get to that, we have one other guest this evening, our good friend over in Paris, France. Good
Hello.
evening, Joseph.
Good morning.
No, that's Fabrice. Or Fabrice. But hey, feel free to use the accent if you want. And
Okay.
yeah. See how long you can keep it up if you want.
Yeah, I could keep that up forever. It's quite natural, you see. Since I'm living in France.
I don't know. How long can you
Wow.
keep it up at 3:30 in the morning?
Actually, even better. My alter ego.
But bump.
There was a reason
So-
why I got up and did Holy Crap at 12:05 on Sunday.
Oh yeah. Katie is in the Q&A here. She said she just posted a talking parrot on the NRR after show page.
Yes, she did.
Way to go.
Go, Katie. And the good thing is that means that our broadcast is working as it should be for fucking once. Yeah. God, I was really getting sick of that bullshit, especially after last week, but that's okay. So this week, as I say, a little bit of a change up, but that's okay. We have a bit of a hot topic, and hot for several reasons, but we're going to talk about the bullshit tactics. I saw that, Joseph. That clergy of all stripes like to use in manipulating not only just their flock, but manipulating when they come into contact with people like us. And Bobby and Ashley have had their fair share of that over the last couple of weeks. That's for damn sure. And I got a taste a little bit today too, because before I went to bed, which for most people would have been time for lunch, but you know, that's me.
Yeah.
I
At 7:30 in the morning on the way to work, and there's like Google Hangout things coming across my messenger, and I'm like, will you go to bed already?
Yeah, well, some French guy showed up, and then I got yapping, and then I was still up when the Jehovah's Witness rang the doorbell at 11:30. So
So
you know.
it's my fault. Okay.
No, it's not. I was up anyway.
It's the French and the Jehovah's Witnesses' fault.
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad. I would have been disappointed that I missed the Jehovah's Witness. So you know.
Either that or they would have woke you up.
Well,
Which
no,
is
the
even
door.
worse.
The doorbell's pretty. Well, no, actually, I probably would have woke up, and then I would have answered the door in my fuzzy robe with kittens on it. Yeah, that would have been fun, huh? Squinting and like, huh? Who are
Satan.
you? Yeah, Satan. Well, see, the other week I thought I saw Jehovah's Witnesses at the neighbor's house, and so I actually ran and like changed into something better and fixed my makeup because I thought, all right, here come the J-Dubs, and then they never came.
Yeah,
I was
you were
really
all
disappointed.
excited for that.
I
You're on a
was, because
list.
I should be on a blacklist, but we'll see. But we'll get back to Buddy later on. But so we did talk really briefly last week about that Pastor Lee guy, because unfortunately Ashley got called away as she's the boss lady, so people call her and make her work at all weird hours. But that was quite a show, eh, Ashley?
Yeah, it was quite. It was my first experience of being called out. Now, regardless if he didn't use my name or not, anybody who knows and listens to the show knows he was talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you know, whether he was discussing it with his congregation or his best friend that he ropes horses with or whatever, he was
Yeah.
still talking about me. I don't care who he was talking to. And it was the first time that I'd ever been told, you know, you were never a believer in the first place. And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
And then to talk to me about abortions and
Mhm.
things like that, I was like, oh hell no. And it just, you know,
Yeah.
it hit me. It was like everything that had been built up, he got it, and I was sick of it. And I'm tired of people telling me how I should feel, or what I'm tired of other people telling me what I went through in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the common argument, right? That's the
Yeah.
that's the common argument we get from the Christian community is if you are a non-believer now, that means that you were never a true Christian. You know,
It's
Yes.
no true Scotsman fallacy.
so you were never a true Christian or a real believer, because if you were, you would not have turned your back on God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they tout Bible verses to prove their point.
Yeah, and depending on their theological view, it's whether it's eternal security or the whole once saved always saved, or you're just a backslidden Christian. Even Teresa McBain went through the same thing when she declared at the Atheist Convention.
Oh yeah,
she went through it. I mean, I did a little bit, but by the time when I came out as an atheist, I was so far away from the church anyways by then that I didn't get it so much. I mean, I've had people make that comment to me recently, but I'm like, yeah, okay, believe what you want. I know the truth. And that's what, that's how I fight it. It's just like, okay, yeah, I only went to, church 3-4 times a week and Bible college and yada, yada, yada.
right.
So, it's just the whole no true Scotsman fallacy.
Yeah.
That's what it all comes down to.
And they have to kind of to do that to when they talk about it to their congregation or whatnot, because if any believer can come along and say, well, wait a minute, no, I don't believe anymore, and I think it was bunk, and especially ones that appeared to be very devout, they've got to have a way around that. Otherwise, it's like, well, wait a minute. If pious Jenny over there can turn into a non-believer, then what does that mean for me? So by trying to tear that down and say, well, that person couldn't really have been a true believer. They were just, lying to themselves or being two-faced or whatever. Then
deceitful.
Deceitful, yes.
That's her favorite word, is deceitful.
It all comes down to trust, because as far as they're concerned, you betrayed the clan, and they were wrong to ever trust you in the first place, because religion's all about humans depending on other humans for survival. Yeah. And they have to save face for trusting you in the past, so that's part of their witch burning, whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think they actually think that it makes them look good to talk bad about a non-believer or the atheist community, because I can, like for Lee, I could see Lee standing behind his pulpit up there with his chest poked out, talking about the atheist community, and it's one of those things that it's a quick way to win favor with those people in the congregation, because, well, I know this atheist, right? And it's his way of saying, well, I talk to the non-believer. Look at me and how important I am.
I'm protecting you.
I'm gonna pump you up.
Right.
That's what it comes down to.
Yes.
Basically.
I'm sorry, but that's what it is. It's exactly like you said. I talk. It's like,
right.
You talk to him, but you're presenting a straw man of what we actually represent. Because what I represent, what Deb represents, what Ashley, Joe, and you represent are 5 different things.
Sure.
The only thing we have in common is our non-acceptance of either a belief or knowledge of God.
Right. And
that's the only thing we share in common.
Right, and I think what it comes down to is they don't realize how much of a pompous ass that makes them look like.
Yeah.
But not to their congregation, because I mean they're preaching to the choir.
Sure.
And
Well,
we're basically like atheists. Like for me, I always say that, you know, atheism is just one side effect of thinking for yourself. And you know, everybody who thinks, especially everybody who thinks for themselves, everybody's different, like Beth says. But they need to make atheists seem an identifiable group that they can attack easier.
That makes sense, yeah, because you know we don't have the same structure base that theists are used to. They're used to, well, I'm a Baptist of such and such council, and I belong to this sect, and so I know that everybody in my church is like this. You know, and a Catholic, well, they're, you know, might be Christian and possibly or whatever, but I know that they're like that. And, you know, a Mormon, and I know that they're like that. But then when you come across an atheist, and we're like, well, we're not like anything. We're just, you know, we just don't believe you.
They
You know,
can't
we're,
categorize us.
yeah, because
as much
we're
as Ken
also
Ham
different.
tries.
Yeah. Yes. So it's I see that too. It's an attempt to say, oh, well, here's a thing that I can use to categorize the atheist. I don't know why my camera is not focusing. Focus, damn you.
Touch your
And-
TV screen.
Yeah. That's what that guy in Nigeria does.
Yeah.
But they're trying to, okay, well, see, look, here's this atheist that you know, they never read the Bible when they're a Christian, so they don't know anything, kind of deal.
Yeah, but they
And
know
that's-
more about the Bible than they do, probably.
Oh, absolutely, we do. You know, there was a meme I saw going around my Facebook, I think it was today, and it was, again, the Christian knocking on the door. Do you have a minute to talk about the Bible? And the atheist says, well, I don't think a minute's going to be nearly long enough for me to talk to you about the Bible, but come on in.
Well, sure, what do you want to know?
Yeah. You got
And-
5
and-
minutes. What do you want to know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of these people don't know what to do when they're confronted with people like Beth and Bobby, who spent years studying this shit in school.
Mhm.
Like, Bobby knows way the fuck more than I ever knew. You know, you schooled Mean Gene, the preaching machine, about what the fuck was in his Bible. That was beautiful.
Well, see, if I can,
Yes.
I want to go back to something that Joseph said
Yes.
about preaching to the choir. But isn't that essentially what we're doing with our shows? Kind of preaching to the choir, talking to the atheist community or the secular community, and every once in a while, if we're lucky, a Christian might stumble onto our show because it's called No Religion Required. But isn't that essentially what we're doing?
Yeah.
Partly, but you know, that's one thing that's really important. It's setting a precedent, because we're ex-religious that have actually gone over to the dark side. But you know, so like if anybody's, you know, they're stuck in the religion, they don't know. The thing is when you're indoctrinated, you don't have any other options. You know, you don't have any memories of you know, being atheist. You've got no reference to apply to. But when you see a show, a so-called atheist show, you can see that it actually is possible to give up religion, and I think we're doing okay. No?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're doing great. But when we were talking about preaching to the choir, you know, a lot of times you'll you'll listen to an atheist podcast. I can see
They are guilty. There are a lot out there that are guilty of that.
Yeah,
that
very
you know,
guilty.
they're totally into their own atheism, quote
Right.
unquote.
Well, I think too. I think that's one thing Deb and I try to, I won't say avoid, but that's why we pretty much hit any topic that comes to mind.
Exactly.
It doesn't necessarily, and I think that's what makes your show unique too, is that you're not afraid to have the preacher dude on. I mean, you
He
could have
might
played
be
these
now.
clips. I haven't listened to the show yesterday, but I did get a synopsis of it, and more power to you. I jokingly said to Deb before the show, I said, yeah, that's why I really don't want a preacher guy on, and she's like, well, we might be having one. I'm like, oh, just give me a warning so I can take my
You guys need
Xanax.
help.
Huh?
You guys need to reach out to Lee.
Well, that's what Ashley and I were talking about. And when folks are listening to this later, they won't realize that looks like Job has called Ashley again. So hopefully she'll pop back in shortly. But
He's just invisible.
yeah, she's invisible.
It is funny because I got an instant message from Lee about an hour ago, and
Oh,
no.
really?
yeah, he said, "So, I guess it's safe to say you'll have me on before last night's guest."
Yeah, I hope he heard my rant though, because I want.
He did.
He did?
If he listened to our show, he did.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and thank you very much for that. That was so very well said.
Thank you.
You know, and it's just funny because I was talking to Jeremiah and everybody after the show, and trust me, I was livid last night.
I know. I was there for that.
It is not too often that I will lose my shit.
Yeah.
And I lost it. I lost it last night.
Well, let's go there. Let's talk a little bit about Tommy Boy.
Well, okay.
Because Tommy had what really struck me, because I've encountered people like Tommy before, and we'll get to what he was doing on the show, but what really struck me was when you mentioned that he was completely different in the pre-show and when you talked to him than when you actually got him live on the show.
Yeah, it was night and day. Matter of fact, the pre-show is posted. And
okay.
And if you listen to that pre-show, and keep in mind, I had 3 conversations with him via telephone before he ever came on the show, because it was my way of kind of vetting him. I wanted to see what his mindset was, see how he argued a little bit. And we got into some conversations over the phone because I wanted to see what his argument style was.
Yeah.
The guy that came on the air last night was not the guy I've talked to for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because on the telephone, when it's just he and I, he was open to arguments, and he actually responded to my arguments, and he responded to my questions. And I'm like, this is going to be a great conversation. And then he got on the air, and I don't know if maybe it was the fact that there was 4 of us, you know, but I made it very well known that you're going to be coming on a show that has me and 3 other co-hosts, and we're all atheists, but I'll do my best to make sure that we don't gang up on you. And I want to make sure that we give you plenty of opportunity to talk and answer questions. I always say that because it's true. Yeah. So I don't know if it was the fact that there was 4 of us or the fact that we were live, you know, what it was that changed his whole demeanor.
He went into defense mode?
No, he went. I would say he went into shutdown mode.
He did.
Because he would not answer any questions. If I asked him a question, he would deflect that question.
Oh, badly.
And then try.
That's a defense.
Right.
Yeah, it's basically you had him by the balls and he didn't know how to get out of it.
Well,
basically, you took him off script.
Well, first of all, and Beth, there was so much silence through that show.
There was. There really was.
There really was a ton of silence. If I sat back and looked at the audio file last night, I bet there's over 5 minutes of silence total throughout that entire show.
Yeah, like when we were in the hangout, like, because there was a post-show hangout, and at one point there was like 15 of us in this hangout, and everybody was going, yeah, at certain points I thought the feed had cut out because he went so silent. And we were all checking, and even Bobby was like, is he still there? Hello? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm here. And then he's like, are you going to ask me a question? And Bobby's like, I asked you 15 seconds ago. What the fuck?
Well, what it
Yeah.
came down to was Jeremiah having to go, dude, it's not a rhetorical question. It's an actual damn question that
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
expect a comment from. But then you notice what he did was when the third segment, he said, well, I know you're loading your question. I know you're loading.
Yeah. He was trying to
Yeah.
work you.
Yeah, and he's trying to read my mind. And I,
Oh,
Yeah.
and and I wish if I could go back, I wish I would have I wish I would have said, listen, have you ever asked a question that wasn't loaded that you had a response to? So how can you use that against me? Going, well, I know you're loading the question, and I know you got another question coming. Of course I do. That's called
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
dumbass.
Well,
And
it's
debate
like I
and
say with yeah.
go ahead, Beth.
Well, I was gonna say I
Go
know
ahead.
one of my biggest things against apologetics as a whole, and I've used this when Matt Slick showed up on AOA, and Cy
Uh,
10 is another one, and Eric Hovind is they all work from a script. All
sure.
apologists do, and all preachers do, and they're apologists by proxy. And you take them off that script, and they shut down
They don't know
because
what to
they
do.
do not.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can't, that's why if you ever listen to Matt Slick, especially him, because he really does this, and I'm more familiar with him because of college and stuff, but you take him off that script, you take him out of his constant badgering of how do you know, how do you know, how do you know, or were you there? That's one of their tactics is were you there or how do you know? How do you know that? You
Yeah.
take them off that, they don't know what to do. They're totally lost, and
Well,
that's when they take their ball and go
I
home.
will say last night, Bill Robbins, he said he really wishes that from now on, when anybody gets asked, were you there, that the answer should be yes, I was fucking there, and were you there to say
yeah,
I
were
wasn't?
you there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually what people are actually using to counter that argument now, and one of the biggest pushes has been presuppositionalism, which I mean anybody that's not living under a rock would know that seems to be the new thing. But there are a lot of apologists and theologians that are pushing to get away from that because it is so flawed and it's so easily defeated. And then you get into the inane rantings of Matt Slick and Eric Hogan and Cy 10. I mean, they just go on and on and on and basically ask the same, just repeat the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And that's what you did last night. You took him off a script. He was not controlling the action. Once he lost control of the action, he didn't know what to do.
Well, I had several people tell me, said, look, I wish you would have followed him down some of his rabbit holes. And I'm like, why? First of all, if he's not answering any questions, why the hell do I want to go down his rabbit holes? Because he's not going to answer any questions once we're down the damn hole.
Yeah.
That's
true.
bait, actually, because he's trying to drag you onto territory he's familiar with.
And I'm not going to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And like, I mean, at one point when in the second segment where it's supposed to be him dazzling everybody with his knowledge of creation, the creation story, right? And as soon as Ashley came out with, well, has Adam ever been proved to even have existed? His response to that was, can you prove the rings of Saturn? It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, has the rings around Saturn been proven? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you ever heard of the Hubble telescope? We got photos of Saturn, dude.
Well, it depends on his mindset. Does he even believe the Hubble telescopes exist? Does he believe he even went to space?
It's funny you bring that up. Then there must be something in the fucking water, because in the crazy group today, there was some dumbass asking to atheists, answer me this question plainly. Have you seen any planets yourself? And we're like, yeah. And then he's like, well, with no machinery. And we're like, okay, well, it is possible to see some planets with the naked eye, so yeah. And then he's like, well, when, where, and how did you see them, and then describe the planet. And like, he wouldn't answer anything else. And I was like, well, I've seen multiple planets over multiple, places over the past 20 odd years, and they look like the fucking picture, okay? Like,
and they insist on going that route And and then they'll come at you with, well, they'll talk about the fallibility of our perception.
Yep.
So like
Yeah.
there's no win there.
No,
Well, yeah.
it's just a bullshit argument.
Well, it is a bullshit argument.
Someone who would use that damn argument, first of all, has no damn argument.
Yes.
Sure.
Which is why they present that. Because truly, they have no argument. The only thing that they can do is go, well, have you seen the planets? Have you done this? They don't have an argument. That is all they have to fall back on, and they jump up and down on that damn horse because that's all they have.
Yeah.
How do you know?
You can go back to them because they're what it comes down to is that they've got the same sense as you do.
Sure.
So unless you can demonstrate you have some sort of super sense, I don't really see the point of your argument.
And if you can, get your ass over to James Randi and claim your $1 million fucking dollars.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Well, it's just like I asked Tommy last night. What's the difference between faith and gullibility?
Yes.
Oh.
Right. Of course, he didn't have an answer. Ashley had to look up the definitions.
One's guided.
That was funny too, because he's like, Ashley's like, let me answer that for you.
Yeah, but that what it goes back to is gullibility, and it's the same. And that's what the problem is with the guy screaming about the planets. He's gullible.
Well, yeah.
He's gullible.
Yeah, because his second part of his quote question was, do you not believe in God because you haven't seen him? And my answer was like, no, that's not why I don't believe in God.
You have seen him?
Yeah,
I haven't seen him, and neither have you.
Yeah.
Didn't you ask Tommy that? You did. You asked Tommy that last night. Have you seen God?
Yeah, the reason that I asked him, have you seen God, was he said, I believe in things that I can see, hear, and touch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so have you seen God? And he was quiet for a long time.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest pause yet.
Right. And then if you listen to it, you can hear the defeat in his voice. He's like, no, I haven't seen him. Right, but you just said that you only believe in things that you can believe, that you can see, hear, and touch. That is where belief comes from.
Is he Pentecostal?
Yeah. Yeah,
and
he is.
he's Pentecostal, and he's admitted to not seeing God. He's not a very good Pentecostal then.
Well, see, the way I hemmed him up was, have you seen God? And you cannot say yes in the face of a precious child.
Oh,
right?
no.
Yes.
I took that away from him. Well, yeah, I see God in the flowers, and I see God in my cum. And, it's like, dude, have you fucking seen God? No.
Yeah.
Because had he said yes, he knew he'd be lying.
That's right.
Well, at least he has that. I mean, some religious people don't even have that level of morals.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know when I had my quote spiritual experience where I asked to be saved and basically converted to Pentecostalism, I thought I saw Jesus. I mean, whether it was a delusion, which it most likely was, because I was bipolar and didn't know it, but I literally saw what appeared to be, a figure of Christ. Well, as we perceive to see Christ. So that's why, and most Pentecostals I know and most charismatics I know have attested to that type of experience. That's why when he said he hasn't seen God, it kind of surprises me, because that's usually what they mean.
Yeah, but he had no choice but say that.
Yeah.
Because trust me, he knew had he said yes, I was going to hammer him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had already said, well, I know that you have loaded questions, and why can't we just be together, go out and feed the homeless? I'm like, dude, really?
You get a monopoly on the
Yeah.
homeless?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? You think because we're atheists that we don't do those things? You think we just sit back and just talk about how bad we hate God? Are you fucking
Which,
kidding me?
yeah, that was pretty. I don't know what the fuck he was trying to do with that, because it was weird. Because all of a sudden he's like, "Can't we all just get along and go out and feed?" Like, where did this debate thing go?
Let us facilitize in peace.
He was
Yeah,
no, he's trying his best to relate.
yeah.
He was trying his best to find a common ground, right? Because he had realized for those 2.5 hours that there was no common ground. So he was trying to bring it back to trying to get me to agree with him, and I wasn't going to do it. You know, when he said, "I understand you coming from a place of pain and hurt," I should
Mm.
I shut
Oh.
that shit down.
Oh yeah, there was like a collective scream in the chat room. What the fuck did that asshole just say?
So,
I should have listened to this before coming on. I'm
So-
sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Joseph. It's
it's
only
there, buddy.
3:30.
Enjoy. Have fun. But I shut him down because I didn't want him to be able to say, "Well, that's why you don't believe in God was because of all these horrible things that's happened." You know.
Yes.
Well, and that's a standard. That's another standard
Sure.
retort. Oh, you hate God because so and so in the church hurt you.
Right.
No, I don't hate God because in order to hate, I would have to believe that God exists. I have no issue with God because He doesn't exist. Period. It's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
and just because Joe Blow at my girlfriend's funeral told me I had no right to grieve, because I was a lesbian. No, that's not why I left the church. I left the church because, well, for my case, I left the church because of the dogmatic differences in theologies between three different denominations. I couldn't rectify them. How
I
could
left
three
the church because of the humans, not because of the, I don't believe them.
Yeah.
That's what it should, I'd like to see the conversation go more to that because it's what they're saying that we don't believe. It's not the concept.
See, for me it's different. It's not what people believe, it's actually what the church itself says it believes when you have three different denominations who tell you three totally different things on the same passage in the Bible. I mean, there were theological differences between Missouri Synod Lutheran, Wesleyan Methodist, and I was independent fundamentalist Baptist. I was charismatic. And they took the same passage in the Bible, and they had three different interpretations, and the churches believed three totally different things. And I couldn't rectify that. It had nothing to do with the people in the church. People in the church were fine to a degree. Yeah. I had problems with some, but in general, for me, it was the hierarchy of the church that I had issues with. It had nothing to do with being gay. It had nothing to do with the fact that I, at the time I believed in social drinking. I still do. It didn't have any. It was little things. It was like the politics of church. That's what drove me out.
Yeah, and I could see that, and that's kind of goes a little ways towards that gripe of theirs. You shouldn't blame the church for God and all that bullshit. But that's just leaving that particular church. That's not necessarily leaving religion.
Yeah.
Blaming God, like for me, that's another thing that annoys me. I'm sorry if I'm monopolizing, but their God is it's basically a scary and invented ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't blame God. It's like, don't look at me, look over there. It's like, it's a straw man.
Yeah.
No, it totally is. It totally is. But it's they've got to talk about, all of these terrible, they must be so wounded, these atheists, and take pity on them, and it makes me just want to smack somebody upside the head.
Well,
but it's for their crowd, they're saying.
It is.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier.
Well, it's like we've gotten into conversations in our crazy groups, one of which I've left now, but where it comes down to when they talk about God, and it's like, well, you have to prove that a God exists. Then
Yes.
if you want to take it further, we can, Christian God, yada, yada, yada. But it's just like, I don't believe in God because I know that God doesn't exist. And unless you want to deny science, which 99.9 of them do, I can show that God does not exist. And in fact, you used the argument the other day.
I
And
did.
and we haven't heard peep from him since.
Tommy's one of those people, though, because
Yeah.
last night he actually said that he thinks that humans and dinosaurs walked the earth together.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, he did.
Oh
And
my
he said,
God,
what
yeah,
evidence? And yeah.
And
And
the Earth is only 6,000 years old, close to 7,000 years old.
yeah.
You know.
What does that change in anything today? Believing that, I mean, what's the point? That's what I would ask.
The point is because he said that all of the fossils and everything that paleontologists and archaeologists have dated, that all these fossils were dated wrong. And I was like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that people who have gone to school for this, that have doctorate degrees in paleontology, then you're telling me that you're just a common guy from Louisiana, and you're going to tell me that they're wrong? What are they? Are they intentionally doing their best to deceive everyone?
Yeah.
There was a meme that I posted today that it nails this young Earth creationism to a T. It says young Earth creationism is essentially the position that all modern science, 90% of living scientists and 98% of living biologists, all major university biology departments, every major science journal, the American Academy of Science, and every major science organization in the world are all wrong regarding the origins and development of life. But one particular tribe of uneducated, bronze-aged goat herders got it exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the whole thing behind young Earth creationism isn't necessarily just creationism. It's the whole denial of science. If they're right about creation being only 7,000 years ago, then everything else about science is wrong. It therefore invalidates all science. But the problem with that argument, when they use that, if that's true, then they need to get the fuck off the internet. They need to quit using their cell phones. They need to quit going to the doctors. When they invalidate science in one area, they cherry pick and ignore the fact that, well, if you invalidate in one area, you invalidate in the other. And that's the whole thing. Like the argument I use, and this is, taking Dave Foda's argument with the Newton's third law, that every cause has a equal and opposite effect, that in order to have a metaphysical God that works at a supernatural level, it has to be measurable. Well, if you can measure it, then you can get the cause and effect. You can't measure God, therefore, and it goes along that lines. And you get to that point, and it's always, the argument always is, well, God works in mysterious ways. Well, you just made God metaphysical. They have to keep digging that hole deeper and deeper till they basically totally obliterate their own God. And I'm saying God in general.
The gaps.
Yeah, then it drops down to the God of the gaps. And it's just like the whole argument you could get from, first it's the Christian God. Oh, then it's just God. Oh, then it's just a deistic God. Oh, then it's just a force. And it devolves from there. I mean, when you try to pin them down, they can't do it. And they get very frustrated.
Their God is the goal with no posts.
It's it's homeopathic God.
God, yeah, that's a good way of putting it too.
Nowhere and everywhere.
Yes, you water it down, the more and more and more, the stronger it gets, you see? Oh, there she is. Yay!
Yay!
Howdy.
Now, you gotta tell these people, fuck off, Jeremy.
It blows my mind. I can go months without getting a phone call.
Yeah.
And then they come one right after the other, and I'm like, will y'all stop already?
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to get a couple more phone calls, but at least it's probably going to be a little bit, because I at least got everything rolling right now.
Okay, well that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Did you have any more input about we've been actually talking more about Tommy, but I didn't know if you had any more input about Lee yet. Although Katie said she'd very much like to reach out to Lee and touch him in a violent manner.
What I would like to do. And Katie, you might have that opportunity.
And Katie, I actually have seen that parrot. It's a cockatiel, actually, but I have seen the fuck you cockatiel, and he's awesome. So, yeah. She said I needed to see that because it echoed the sentiments of what most people were saying last night. And he's like, fucking fuck, and fuck you. But yeah, did you have anything else to add about Pastor Lee? Because that's twice now you've kind of had to get dragged away from that.
Yeah, I'm like, really, y'all? You know, if y'all will feed me to the wolves, oh my gosh, y'all fed me to the wolves. They are.
Mm-hmm.
The sad part is I used to sound just like them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I keep trying to, you know, I'm like, okay, I used to be, as much as Lee would like to think that I've never been in this position before, I have been in this position before.
Mm-hmm.
I have had, it might not have been an atheist, but it was, I've had the conversation with somebody who's like, well, I'm Muslim, I believe in Allah, not God, and here I am thinking the whole time that, they're the same thing as a child.
Yeah.
The Muslims called him Allah, and we called him God, like a different language.
Which is exactly right,
actually.
So, I mean, here's the thing. I would like to actually sit down and maybe on a Skype call or something, and just me and Lee just have this conversation. Let me tell you where you went wrong.
Yeah.
I know you really might not want to hear it. You might have been trying to get a point across, but let me tell you how you did it wrong coming from a secular standpoint, coming from an atheist standpoint. As much as I do want to just reach in and just grab him by his neck and just attack him, and just go, I can say it on this show, you're a fucking idiot.
You can say it on the show.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
As much as I want to reach out there and do that, I keep thinking that if I do that, then they're going to win. They're going to be able to say, those atheists, those secular people are just total nut jobs. They just mad at everybody. I'm proving them right is what I'm doing.
Well, I think it's a good idea to sit down on Skype, have a conversation just between you and Lee, and then we'll take that conversation and we'll add it into the following week's show.
Right?
Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I don't think I'm willing to have him back on live.
Right. No, I wouldn't want him back on live.
But I would be.
You could come on here because you could call him a fucking moron here, but I'm just saying. Whoa. Sorry, Bobby.
But I think a recorded conversation where you two can just sit down and have a conversation, and then we play it on the show is fine.
Right.
But I think I know you're probably not going to agree with this, but I think Lee likes you enough that he would have that conversation.
Oh, I think he would too.
Does Lee have a piss poor way of showing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But deep down, I think he truly likes you.
I do too.
I think what it is, and I think I mentioned this to you, Ashley, the next morning, is one of the tactics that, and I did actually listen to the Lee's thing and your spiel and everything, is that it's the guilt tactic that a lot of ministers and a lot of those that are tasked with bringing those to Christ, and I've used it myself.
Right.
And I could kick myself in the ass, and basically what it was is that he couldn't get you with, quote, logic and reason, so he was going to try to guilt you or shame you into, and Bobby, you may have picked up on this because you have a very similar background that I do, and is that he couldn't get you with his so-called logic and reason, so she was trying to shame you into the fold by saying, oh, your life was just so fucking terrible, and yeah, it's better now, but it can be so much better if you come back into the church. And I think that's what he was actually trying. I don't think it's a matter of like. I think he basically saw you as a target, and he was trying damn well to reconvert you.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it at my mom's funeral, and I shut this down right away with the minister. My mom hadn't passed yet, and the first day he came in and did basically last rites because they didn't know when she was going to pass, and the second day he came in, I left the room because I knew he was coming. And as I was coming back into the room, I went out and had a cigarette, and he goes, "Well, that was rude." I said, "Well, that was pretty rude yourself when you sat there and basically prayed over my mom, telling her that she would, that all the pain that she's going through, granted she was on morphine." I said, "But to stand there and tell my father that it would be in God's time to take her when she's gasping for breath," which she literally was doing, granted she was 94 years old, but I mean, my dad basically from the time she got sick, went into the hospital, then went into hospice, was there from 8:30 in the morning till closing, which was at 9 o'clock at night, and did not leave her side for 1 second. Getting him to eat was virtually impossible for the week I was there, before she passed away. And for him to say, "Oh, it'll be in God's time," I said, to me, that was very rude.
Well, I think the thing with with Lee. Sorry, I'm starting to get my pastors confused.
It's Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee.
Look, we've had three. We've had three pastors now: Alex, Lee, and Tommy.
Alex was the best one by far.
Yeah. I think the thing with Lee, especially when it comes to Ashley, Lee knows that Ashley's brand new into her atheism.
Yeah.
Because she's fresh.
Very true.
She's fresh right out of religion, and he knows that he can't bring that type of argument to me because I'm very well established on belief. Yeah. Ashley's brand new. She's what he would call a baby atheist or a weak atheist. Right? Yeah. So he sees her as vulnerable.
And he hadn't talked to her nearly enough.
See, that's what I mean. He can't. I didn't like the fact that he portrayed me to be as somebody the way he did when he doesn't. He hasn't talked to me like Bobby has. He hasn't talked to me like Deborah has or Beth has. Joseph's seen me throughout different shows and seen me evolve. Y'all all have seen me evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly.
And the funny thing is, though, go ahead, Ashley.
No, I was just going to say, does anybody here honestly think that it would take a preacher to come to me and say, "You're wrong, let's pray about it, and I'm going to change. I'm going to go back."
No.
No, because we've been for all this time.
There's not one.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the mistake they make is that they make the analogy of weak atheist, weak Christian. But I think, at least in my experience, is that those that become atheists, I won't say are stronger in the beginning than they are, after 20-odd years. Whereas with Christianity, the indoctrination is much weaker in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And they make that piss poor analogy. I think it's actually the reverse in atheism. I think, for me, I was an angry atheist for years.
Me too.
When I find, and I think I'm reverting back to that.
Me too. Holy shit!
It comes in spurts.
Yeah, it does.
Well, and it's funny. I don't know how many years has it been for you, Bobby, that you've been an atheist?
Almost 3, I think.
Let's see.
Okay.
Almost 3.
Because I've been. Let's see. I
don't know.
At the first Reason Con, which was in 2014, I was still a believer.
Yeah.
At 2015, I was not.
So
Yeah.
So you've been at least two
3
and a half
years because 2000.
See, and so Joseph, how long for you?
20.
Okay, so I got you all beat then. It'll be 27 years this summer that I've been an atheist.
In a lot of people's view, guys, I'm still new.
Yeah, I would consider Bobby pretty new.
Because,
and
I didn't realize it was only that shorter time. That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
I thought you were an atheist for a lot longer.
Well, see, the podcast will be 2 years old in March.
In March. Next month will be 2 years.
Yeah.
For us.
And I think what's unique about atheism or secularism or even agnosticism is that is there more to learn in the sense, yes, in regards to science, but as far as disbelief in God or not believing in God, it's you either do or you don't.
Yeah.
It's not going to change. You're not going to become a stronger, maybe a stronger disbelief in God. Like, I still disbelieve in God, but my arguments to support it
are more sound. Yeah.
Yeah, are more sound from a logical from an argumentative standpoint. Whereas my belief when I was still a Christian, especially when I was studying for the ministry and learning how to convert souls for Christ, I learned different tactics. I didn't become smart. Well, yeah, I did become smart. Actually, I became smarter in the Bible after I left the church. But, that's the thing. You didn't learn anything, quote, new. You just learned different tactics. I mean, I remember when I first deconverted and when I started working at the Jesus campus, it was more like I was learning all these new tactics to convert little children.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I still have nightmares.
There's one thing that I've noticed because we've got a whole family here, and the family consists of and the only way that I can get y'all to visualize this is we're a family, and the people who have been atheists for 20 plus years, that's grandma and grandpa.
Okay. Thanks.
They're the ancestors.
They're not one of our.
Okay, let me put it this way. Mom and Dad. Is that better?
Okay, fine.
We got Deborah. She's great-grandmother. And we have
thanks. Actually, funny you should say that. This weekend I will be meeting my first great nephew this weekend.
That's awesome.
I have two now, actually, but this is the oldest one. But that's aside the point. Where I was kind of going with that is the way my atheism has changed over those almost 27 years is at the beginning it was a non-thing. Like, it was just, I'm an atheist, okay, on with life. And no one ever talked about it. No one ever cared. It never came up unless I was expected to go to some church thing, which really wasn't all that often. And so it was just a non-thing for it. I was an atheist for 17 years before I got pissed off enough that I felt the need to go online and find Christians to yell at. Which I literally did. I got pissed off watching something on TV. I'm like, well, shit, I got the internet. There's got to be some Christians out there I can yell at with impunity. And I found some, and I did that for a while, and that was fine. And then after a while, it went back to being a non-thing again. Right. Because back then, and I'm talking like a decade ago, there really wasn't an online activism presence. There was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no podcasts or any of that shit. Yeah. So I found the Facebook group where I could yell at Christians, and that was great. But that Facebook group was also private, so only people in that little circle of people yelling at each other would see it. But it was satisfying, right, at the time. And then it was, a year and a half ago now where I finally got to where I was pissed off enough again that I was like, now I need to do shit. Now, first I found a podcast, and then I started talking to you folks, and then I was like, okay, now this has got to the point beyond just yelling at Christians in a private chat room. This is where I need to get out there and talk to real people and tell them what the fuck is up and why this shit is harmful and all of that. So I've gone from meh to what the fuck is wrong with you people? Yeah. And it's been 27 years, but it's you know, I am angrier now.
Well, like what you just said, you didn't have what we baby atheists have now. You know,
Yeah.
we've got the internet. We've got, you know, we can go and at the touch of a button hit something and find out if it's true or not. You know, now
Yes.
I'm not the type person that everything on the internet is true. I used to be, but I'm not anymore.
Well, see, you see what you have to realize is I did the exact opposite of what Deb did.
Mhm.
Right.
Because I started this show, well, not this show, but our show.
Mhm.
It's a habit to say that.
I know. You got a mic in your face.
I started our show as a brand new atheist.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I I I started a blog, and 6 months later, my blog became a podcast. So I was already in that very first stage of coming out of belief into my non-belief. Still, I mean, really, an infant fucking atheist, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, you still are.
Yeah, but it was through the show and through the community that we built through the show that I am the type of atheist that I am now.
Mhm.
And I and you, Ashley, are both continuing to evolve in our atheism.
Right.
We are going to be different 3 years from now than we are now.
That's what I was going to point out. Because see, now that I can cuss on this show, so that's one of the things I was going to point out, that people like fucking Foda. Yay, I said a fuck word.
Yes.
I get so excited on Monday nights. But people like Deborah and Joseph and, you know, and Dave and Beth, who can, you know, I've sat there and I've listened to somebody go, no, there is no God.
Yeah, photo.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know,
And me.
right. Deborah does it.
Oh, does she?
Yeah,
I do.
you know, I can't say that I'm at that point to say, but you've been at it for 27 years.
Well, well, yeah, but I think isn't it the people that can straight up say there is no God, they're considered strong atheists, right?
Yes, that's right.
Right.
I hate labels.
I know.
I know.
I know that.
For argument's sake, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But for argument's sake, someone who can stand up and go, I know for a fact there are 7 on the Dawkins scale. Right?
I hate the Dawkins scale. I really hate the Dawkins scale.
Argument's sake, Deborah.
Never mind.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
But yes, I am that. I am that one saying absolutely there is no God. Period.
Right.
And I have been that since day one. I have been that since day one.
But I won't even address that because I mean they tried, because you know, for me their God is a straw man and they always try to bring the attention there. And I'm like, hey dudes, you know, it's just an evidenceless affirmation. That's all it is. Just you saying that to try to make me obey you and pay you. And that's it. It's just like, it's a prop. So I'm not even going to address it. Now, why the hell are you doing that? Why are you trying to make me obey you?
Yeah.
And for me, it comes down to that. I don't even address the God question anymore.
The reason that I brought that up was I'm going to have to use the word again, strong atheist.
Yep. That's okay.
The reason that I brought that up is that's 27 years of atheism.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. That's 27 years of going through the atheist community.
She's gonna whip my ass for saying this, but she's indoctrinated with atheism.
No.
How the hell was I gonna get indoctrinated on a fucking farm in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of hillbilly rednecks?
You're a believer. You're a believer.
I was the only fucking atheist I knew for, I don't know.
Right. So that's.
I wasn't until 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Bobby was saying, that's 27 years that you have of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
The experience.
Go ahead, Deb.
Well, I was just going to talk a little bit about that light bulb moment because, and I know, Beth, I'm sorry, but It's a running joke that it took her 10 years and it took me like 2 weeks, but when that happened, and this is how young I was 17 years old, so do the math, people. It's my birthday next week. You can figure it
61
out.
years ago. Got it.
Yeah.
Arno turns 13 next week.
Yes, he does on Monday, a week from today, actually.
Leap
But
year.
yes, he is. But when I had that, this is how young I was, because I mean, I had been devout. I joined that stupid Calvinist sect. I was telling my like 7-year-old brother, "You better repent, or you're gonna go to hell." And he was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" You know, and going to all this Bible shit and whatever. And when I finally clued in, I wasn't angry. I thought, holy shit, I've figured it all out. I need to tell people that they don't have to go around believing this stupid crap anymore because it's fake, right? And it wasn't, I'm so angry that everybody's convinced me of this. It was, I figured it out, and now I have the real deal here, and I should tell people. And I felt like I could help people with this. And then I found out that people weren't very interested in knowing it, which I didn't quite understand for a while. But I was also, within a couple of weeks, I was off to college and new people and new city, and then that sort of, oh, I need to tell people fell away, because no, I need to go to fucking class and learn some shit. And it was, wow, I'm in a town I don't know with people I don't, because I was really fucking shy back then. Believe it or not, I was really fucking shy back then. And so that was, that sort of fell away, that, oh my God, I should tell people. But that was what my mindset was at the time. It wasn't like these fuckers have been lying to me my whole life. It was these poor bastards are believing shit that they don't need to believe, because I still kind of understood why they would believe it. And it was like, I've got the meaning of life here, people. Like, listen. And yeah, so
there's a bit of self-confirmation in that, and you kind of guilty of that, because when you first come into something, you know how a lot of religious people, they proselytize because they see you questioning them,
yeah,
and they have to confirm their own belief. They have
yeah,
to. It's almost like talking to themselves more than other people.
right.
And when you're a new atheist, quote unquote, you really have to go through a work of convincing yourself or proving
It didn't, though. But that's the thing. Like, it was that hard of a, holy shit, that is the truth. That is the absolute answer. That is correct. I never doubted it again after that. Like, literally, afterwards, never once.
What Joseph describes is pretty much what I went through. And as you said, we joke because you pretty much did it overnight, and it took me 10 years. I mean, I had, 10 years of a lot of doubts. I went from a very fundamentalist household. I, eventually converted to Pentecostalism. I went through some shit that probably should have drove me out of religion, but actually drove me deeper in. And, as I said, then the whole theology, because I was a Bible and theology major in college, that's what my interest lied in, was church, specifically church history, specifically Pollyanity. But I started, once I realized that I was more of I went through the whole I'm an agnostic, and then I went to the deist, and it wasn't until about 10 years later when I finally said to myself, and this was in like 1990, 89, 90, I finally admitted to myself that I was an atheist, but I had no one to tell because it was pre-internet.
Yeah.
I mean, everything I did, everything I learned, it was very solitary. I didn't have, even though I live in the hometown of CFI, I didn't know anything about them at the time. To me, they were of Satan. I think that's the only thing I knew. Everything was of Satan. But when I finally, it's like I jokingly say, had I read Richard Dawkins' book, God Delusion, back in 1986, I probably would have deconverted overnight. because there was just, I mean, you know, as I've said before, love him or hate him. Huh?
Yeah.
Are you so sure?
Well, there was something in his book that even, I mean, love him or hate him, love or hate the book. There was something in that book, whether it was the vitriol that he came out with or the way he phrased it, it just really hit a nerve for me, especially after going through what I did for 10 years to get out of religion.
So you were well on your way to deconversion already, because I mean, somebody totally into it wouldn't even register. It'd be just like either does not compute.
Oh,
or
by the time I read the book, I was an atheist. I was already an atheist for.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, had I read the book, had he wrote the book sooner, had I been exposed to atheist material sooner, I probably, you know, like what we have today, we turn on our computers, or in my case, I just turned my screen on, and it's right there at my fingertips. I didn't have that back in 1990. I didn't have that when I was going through what I was going through, you know, those 10 years that I have now. And, you know, now, like, I'm more interested in the science in a sense that how does science support my view? Yeah, I'm still an atheist. I'm still as strong as I was from day one. But now I can defend my position and not just say, well, I just don't believe in God. Because that's what I did for 10 years.
That's been really important for me because, like I said, I was, you know, from day one I was, there is no God. None of this, you know, I'm not sure, or I lack a belief or any of that. I was, there is no God. And I knew that I didn't really have a way to support that other than what, you know, describing history and that sort of stuff. And I knew that wasn't really concrete evidence for it, even though it made perfect sense to me and I understood that was the truth for me. I knew I couldn't really defend that, and now I can. And that's been really important to me, and that's only happened like within the last like 7 months. That like, I've been able to come out and defend that well.
But before we go on too far, going back to what Bobby said earlier, you know, like these books, they're kind of preaching to the choir, as far as I'm concerned. Dawkins' books and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And like, what we're doing is preaching to the choir. But, you know, these things weren't around. These would have helped you a lot in your conversion process. And I think that's kind of what we're doing too. I mean,
well, and that's the point I was going to make, because I think that's what we was targeting with Ashley, because, like as Bobby said, she was a, quote, new atheist.
And he even goes on to talk about targeting weak Christians at the beginning of his talk. So that brings it back to that, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where I'd be like, for me, I mean, even though from day one I pretty much knew there was no God, but I had no way to defend it. I mean, I could defend it from a philosophical standpoint,
right?
But my view of philosophy is not always the right tool. I mean, and I borrow that from Dave too. Him and I do think quite a bit alike, and he's right, because philosophy does not always work. To me, philosophy is like apologetics. It's really intellectual word salad. I mean, philosophy has its uses, but as a defense against God, it does not. Cosmological argument is a very good example.
That's not philosophy.
Well, according to William Lane Craig, it is.
Well,
yeah, but Craig is an idiot.
Well, you have to remember the origination of the Kalam argument actually was in Persian philosophy, so it is actually a philosophical argument, not the way that William Lane Craig tries.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Craig was one of my instructors, so.
Yes.
Oh, ouch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Elvin Plandiga was another one, so.
That whiny voice for like hours. Oh.
Well, thank God he was only an adjunct and visiting professor. He wasn't a full-time professor. Actually, my apologetics professor was actually pretty cool. He let me back into the class twice, so. I never liked it, even when I was a believer. I thought it was all bunk back then. I still think it's bunk.
But, you know, it's interesting because, you know, Bobby's only been out 3 years.
Yeah,
and he is arguably because he's got way more theology under his belt than I do, he's far better at attacking these tactics than I necessarily am. Like I'm getting better, and I've spent a lot of time on online debates, but Bobby's got the teaching and the practice, and I don't know, he seems to be really good at it, and I think it's because he's got all that theology under his belt.
I've got 40 years of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know.
You touch on.
I don't have enough fingers.
And you still remember what it's like to be a believer. I mean, you can talk to you can speak their language.
Absolutely.
Yes.
To touch on two things that y'all were talking about, one, the philosophy, and then talking about anger. Philosophy, I used to use a lot of philosophy. I used to sit there and think and think and think. It made me think, is what philosophy made me do. Mm-hmm. And so now, just like the other day, Bobby and I were driving around, and I'm sitting here asking him philosophical questions, and I kid you not, had he not had his hand on the steering wheel, he probably would have face-palmed a couple of times.
It's not safe while driving.
Yeah, no. Philosophy while driving. Because he gives you this look of, what the hell did you just say?
Road.
We're talking about robots, okay? No, I'm not going to bring up the robots, baby.
Please don't.
But that's a topic for another show. But the angry part, I didn't get so much. I mean, I did get angry because I felt like I was lied to, but the thing that I got angry the most about was the miracles. I truly believed in miracles. I actually believed that, oh my gosh, people could be healed, the sickness could be healed, the homelessness could be, all
eradicated.
I was so interested in miracles. Hell, I thought it was a miracle that I'd actually thought that I'd see my grandparents after they died, and that is what pisses me off. That's what I'm upset about, is because you made me believe in miracles.
That can fuck you up for life. I mean, and children, that's what gets me angry, is telling children this. That, if you don't obey, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
That's why I got involved in the hereditary religion, to the point that I'm going to help organize it next year. But it's like you said, Joseph, when you tell a child that, and I'm guilty of it. And I remember when Cash, one of the earlier shows, he had what was one of your biggest regrets, and I've been through, hell and back, but my biggest regret was being a camp counselor in a Jesus camp type camp.
And you still think, how many lives have I ruined? I mean,
how many? Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I think for me, really the turning point was when I started listening to Cash's show. And basically that's how we ended up doing this show. But also too, meeting Ashley, listening to No Religion Required, because it was one of the earlier shows that I listened to as well. And the fact that although I didn't realize it at the time when I was listening that you were such a new atheist at the time, but listening to some of your earlier shows, Bobby, you could tell that the anger was there.
Oh yeah.
I
remember when you came in, Ashley. I don't remember what. Go ahead.
I said, I'm a witness. I was a witness.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like, for me, it was kind of almost rejuvenating, because I remember, I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not a talker. I'm more of a listener.
What?
Yeah, but see, something kind of happened when I called in to Cash's show that night, because I called in and I said, my biggest regret was being a camp counselor at a Jesus type camp, and it was just like I had already met Dave Foda prior to that, and a couple other through God discussion, so I already had so I already had Dave's impetus as far as because I was ready to give up blogging altogether. I was just like, I felt like I was just pounding my head against a brick wall. And,
talking to Dave?
No, not talking to Dave, pounding head again. Well, sometimes.
Don't feel bad, Deborah. I have that problem too when he calls it a pecan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But I think what we do is we all feed off of each other, like going back to the whole speaking to the choir thing. I mean, if you were to go on my iTunes, I have like 500 and some odd different podcasts. And no, I don't listen to them all at once. I try to. Now that I have an MP3 player, I can. But it depends on my mood. I'll listen to, depends on which shows I listen. What kind of pump you up do I need? And I think that's, we are preaching to the choir, but we're not. I think we bleed off of each other. And, that's why that's, like, do I like Richard Dawkins? Yeah, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Do I like Daniel Dennett? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It all depends. I take inspiration from everybody. I mean, I get inspiration from Ashley.
Yeah, I'm going to open y'all up into a little bit of Ashley's world for just a second.
Yes.
I have never, y'all talk about these books and Dawkins, and
I don't read.
Yeah, I don't read.
No, she don't read.
Yeah. Everything that I have learned, now I'm reading the Bible, but thank goodness I only have to read it like once or twice a month. Good God. But
now
everything I've learned, I've gotten from y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It may surprise you as somebody who's been an atheist for almost 27 years, but I've never read any of their books either.
I've never read Delusion.
No. I have a copy, but I've not read it.
I tried. And it was...
Yeah.
And this is going to be terrible for me to say, and many atheists are going to hate me, but I found it boring as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, I got about 3 chapters in, and I put it down. I'm like... No,
he's sitting there when you've got to have a dictionary next to you, along with when you got to read 2 books at the same time just to understand.
Yeah.
Well, it is just like Hitch. Hitch is such a great writer, right?
Yeah.
But you got to have a damn PhD and a damn dictionary there with you to follow him.
Yeah. Now, see, a lot of these guys, I've watched their lectures on YouTube, and I will sit and listen to an academic lecture easily. I love that shit.
Yeah.
But to sit and pick through an academic book, I find very tiresome. And I have some of them, and I keep them kind of maybe for reference or whatever, as or the same kind of way I guess a Christian puts a cross on the wall. I got my God Delusion book. I don't know, but
this little fucker has over 7,000 books on it.
She has her own cross.
Yeah.
She's got the God Delusion going this way, and then she's got Hit going this way.
God's not great.
God's not great is downstairs on the bookshelf. I've never opened it, but I found it. It was actually at a secondhand store. Yep.
And Joseph, and you talking about Joseph and Beth were talking about how bad you felt, when you're at Jesus camp and you're teaching how many kids did you lead towards Jesus Christ? How many kids out there right now are living their life because of something that you said at that Jesus camp?
Well, way to make them feel bad.
No. I'm going somewhere with this. That is not to make anybody feel bad.
Excuse me while I put your dick in the dirt.
Remember
all those kids' lives you ruined?
I am not putting this in the dirt, just to let you know.
I think I know where she's going with it, so...
All those
I have a good story to tell you after, though.
What I'm saying is that
wow,
I have 2 children that I began to raise. First off, I didn't take them to church, but I began to raise them as if they were Christians. I began to teach them what I knew. When my kid had never stepped into a church until 3 years ago, my oldest one. Or even my youngest one, for that matter. And then when I started the show and started seeing, listening to everybody's stories, I immediately stopped with my kids. I was like, oh, hell no. And the 15-year-old right now, what's amazing is to watch someone his age evolve.
Yeah.
You know, he's gone from, you know, we live in a country bumpkin town. He cannot walk around with "I'm an atheist" t-shirt on, okay? He'll be shot.
Oh, yeah, that's
Okay.
sure.
Yeah,
But, you know,
same here.
he comes here and he can speak his mind. He can ask questions and things like that. But like when he's at his dad's, he can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh hell, because his dad's got all the shooting.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's important for people to realize, especially in a situation like yours where you have a split home, is that allowing a child, and I think one of the things that came out of it for me is that I am against any type of indoctrination of children, and that's been one of my strongest things that I've always fought for. If you're going to expose a child to religion, expose them to all 34,000 of them.
Yep. And that's what
okay.
Or in the right context. But
Yeah.
There is no right context in my opinion, but that's a whole other argument.
As
but
yeah. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I think I know what you're saying. But if you're gonna teach religion, then teach Hinduism, teach Islam, teach Buddhism, teach Christianity. Well, problem with teaching Christianity, which one of the 3,600 of them are you going to teach? Teach mainline Christianity. Then again, that doesn't work either. But teach them all. Let a child be exposed
let them make their own decisions.
Let them.
But that's just it. You have to let you if you're going to teach them religion, you also have to teach them to think for themselves. I mean,
that's important.
Exactly, and that's where we're like you were saying, Joe, where the critical thinking comes in. You want to teach the creation myths? Fine, teach all of them.
I was talking to Ashley's 15-year-old today.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about critical thinking.
Yeah, he talks to Bobby more than he talks to me now.
Yeah, because I'm cool. You're the ATM card. I'm not.
The ATM card, the laundry service, and the shop.
No, I stopped with the laundry. He does mine now.
But
After you've done the black.
In the shoe service.
Yeah. I'm in the shoe service.
We were talking about critical thinking, and he was talking about how his friends don't have that. And I told him, I said, I want you to understand, critical thinking is learned.
Mm-hmm.
It is something you learn to do. It is something you practice and you practice and you practice until you get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I? I just want to bring a perspective to this. You know, this is something that's innate to all of us. I mean, we're born with it. I mean, when we're growing up, if we put humanity back, like into when it was man against human against nature, this was a survival skill. You know, it was a pattern breaker. If we were affronted with another animal, you know, animals, they behave by imitation alone. And humans, they just learned to break that pattern. You know, they would do what the animal wasn't expected, which allowed the human to dominate or run away, one or the other. And when we're kids, you know, the prefrontal cortex, the part that allows critical thinking, it's still growing. It doesn't finish developing until adolescence. Mm-hmm. And in all cultures, in all of history on Earth, I mean, there's a coming of age rite, and this is normally when we're supposed to transition between, you know, being little information vacuums and using this information for ourselves to survive, to make our own decisions, and that's what critical thinking is all about. But you know, in today's sheltered society, humans can live very well by imitation alone their entire lives. And I think that's exactly what believers do.
Sure, I agree with that. Mm. Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, that if you look at the 2012 Texas platform of the Republican Party, they have purposely left the teaching of critical thinking out of education. Like you were saying, it's something that's innate, so we have to be taught not to do it. And that's where the church, and when I say the church, I mean any religion.
It keeps that transition from happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't want, the religious right does not want critical thinking taught. That's why you see the push for creationism in schools. That's why you see all these stupid RFRA bills. They don't want people to think critically. They want a dumbed down society to, for people to vote against their best interest. Tennessee's a very good example. Kentucky right now is an excellent example.
Georgia.
Critical thinking.
Yeah, and in Georgia recently, in North Carolina now. I mean, Texas actually has it in their 2012 platform, and I think they put it into 2016, that critical thinking cannot be taught in schools.
Critical
At all.
thinking is just knowing how to survive independently. That's it, on your own. But they want you always looking to another human to decide for you everything you're going to do.
Yeah, but essentially what it comes back to is you have to reteach people how to critically.
Yeah.
It may have been, innate, and like Bev said, they teach it, they take it away. What it comes down to is being able to reteach someone how to critically think, which is what I'm doing with Christian now. He may have been born with it, but now I'm reteaching him. Look, this is what critical thinking is. You need to learn to start asking questions and completely tear that answer down. Think critically.
Just showing him that he can do it.
Yeah,
that you can decide something for yourself.
Yeah.
Just don't accept it, because they said it. Dissect it. Ask questions.
Yes.
Question even this.
Right. It's the Socratic method. Ask questions.
Yeah, we tell Christian to even question what we tell him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
If you look at a lot of the
I wish I had
with apologetics, especially your preacher types. I'll use Mike Hogard as an example. He goes into this spiel and it's dealing with the Nephilim. And he's like, he rattles off I think it was over 45 biblical passages. Now, how is any person of ordinary intelligence going to sit there and write down everything he said to look up? It's and that's what they count on. They count on our our stupidity, our learned laziness that's been
for instance,
taught to us. At least we'll say the Middle Ages or the Dark Age.
Like when we were talking with Chris Rada last week, and one of the things, I don't know if she said it with us or whether it was in one of her videos, but David Barton's books are footnoted at the wazoo, and he brags about that.
Yes.
But no one checks the fucking footnotes. She checked the fucking footnotes, and they're all bogus.
They're all bullshit.
They're all bullshit. And the amount of work involved for someone to take all of those footnotes and actually examine them. Yeah, it is. It is a giant gish gallop. And then you have people believing alternative history because this guy wrote a book with a bunch of fucking footnotes, and that he makes a point of saying, look at all my beautiful footnotes. Because the non-believers, they want evidence. Look at all my evidence, Or he takes that original John Adams letter and waves it around that no one can actually read because it's in early 19th century handwriting and language that no one knows, but he's going to put that thing up on the screen with a red box around the paragraph and tell you what it says.
Yes.
And you have no way of being sure that's what that says because A, you can't read it, and B, he's got the document, so you can't actually take it and look at it yourself and try to read it.
Well, if you remember last night, Deb, how many times did I ask Pastor Tommy for references?
Yes,
where are you
a lot.
Where are you getting this information? Right?
Yes.
Give me one website that I can tell people in the chat room, go look at this. you know, and he couldn't do it. And the only time he mentioned a website was when I asked him, "Are you getting this information? It sounds like you're getting it from Answers in Genesis."
Yes.
Finally, that is one.
And that was because someone else, and I forget who it was, but somebody else, I think it was Morgan, went and looked it up and found verbatim what he was saying.
.com.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the other night with the one Muslim guy you're arguing with, and I'm like, this sounded familiar, so I typed it in, and it took me right to the website. I knew it was going to be at, and like, I said, well, it sounded familiar because it was one of these science, God and science websites.
Hey,
people like make fun of me because like in my longer pieces that I'll do for my blog, especially if it's dealing with dominionism, I'll have URL links to outside sources up the wazoo. I have one article, I think I have over 100 of them, just for 5,000. But I want people to see where I'm getting this information from. Where am I thinking? I'm cited, and I have been accused of plagiarism before, so I know what it's like. And I was plagiarizing myself, which.
Yeah, that was a good story.
But did you sue?
But it's.
Did you win?
Yeah, when I handed him the byline.
Did you settle out of court?
Yeah.
Yeah, she settled out of court. That's it.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, I mean, I read 5 to 7 books a week. As I said, my Kindle has over 7,000 books on it. My Kindle on the computer has over 10,000. There, 7 of which are duplicates, obvious. But I read 5 to 7 books a week. That's not including what I read during the week on the computer when I'm doing my blog. But that's me. Deb likes to listen, and I also listen to podcasts off the wazoo. Now that I have an MP3 player,
I prefer watching a lecture.
Yeah, I mean, and Ashley says, well, I don't read. Well, Ashley, yes, you do read. You just don't read books.
Yes.
You don't read websites either.
Pretty pictures.
No. I will say, because I do read Beth's Havoc and Chaos.
Yeah, I do know she reads my blog. But, I mean, we all learn by different ways. I mean, I went to college for 8 years. Didn't graduate. But that's how I was taught. That, I mean, and there's things that I learned back in the 80s that I still do today. I mean, when we did the segment on hermeneutics, I still use, even though I'm an atheist, I still use what I was taught in my apologetics class, in my hermeneutics class, but I use some reasons now. I mean, but it's given me, as much as the classes discuss me as far as the topics, it's given me a solid basis to critically think about, we have someone like Stephen Ballou, who is a chemist. He's an actual lab chemist. That's the direction he comes from. Bobby, you have a theology background, so that's where you come from. Joseph, you're into the neurosciences, on a layman's term. That's where you come from, and I think that's why, even though we're talking, like going back to the whole talking to the choir, I think we all bring something different. Dave Foda is very much a critical thinker. He's very philosophical in his spots. We have Rachel Nannon Brown, who's a paleontologist. She comes at it from dinosaurs. Ashley is we'll call her the newbie. She's got that
from experience.
Well, and the fact not so new. It sounds really horrible. You're not that far disconnected from being a believer.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can relate to somebody just coming out, where I can remember the tactics. I mean, Vicki Garrison and I were joking about it when she was on our show, when I asked her about her experience when she was still equivocal, and she like immediately went into that whole. I mean, she totally zoned out and like just rattled off every. I mean, it was like she was back in equivocal.
Yeah, it was kind of creepy because she started speaking their language. Like,
yeah, and it's like I still catch myself doing that, even though I've been out. I think I've been 25
You know
years.
how long it takes to de-educate? I'm losing my English. Uneducate yourself?
yeah,
Like to because you
Deprogram.
think, yeah, deprogram yourself. Because I mean, like since your childhood, every neuron
Yes.
that you built the rest of your life on, because it's built like a tree. And I mean,
Yeah,
at
it's
the
body
root
matter.
of it all is religion, and you have to actually physically in your brain reroute everything around the religion, and that takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
it does.
and this is very minute, but just by saying, "Oh my God,"
Yes, I do that 27 years later. I still fucking do that.
Yeah, me too.
or go, "Holy shit."
Yeah.
And people look at me like, "But you're an atheist. Why are you screaming?" I'm like, "Fuck you! I can say it now."
Yeah.
Well, if it's any consolation, it's like in the human brain, it registers as a grunt. So.
You didn't say, "Oh my God," because oh my God, you were taking the Lord's name in vain.
Name in vain. Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I was thinking.
So when I say it,
I'm gonna have to start grunting now.
I'm like, now I can say it because I don't think there is a God. But on the same hand, I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God," like calling it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is so fucked up of me. But
It's
then
only
again, but it's an expression.
Like if I'm doing it online, I will make a point to say like, "Oh my flying spaghetti monster," right? But you can do that when you're messaging or making a post, but in language you can't fucking do that because it sounds stupid.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna walk around and go, "Ooh, my flying spaghetti monster." Like, no. I just
How many?
Yeah.
I do. People look at me funny, but that's normal. So.
Well, and I'll send like the OMGs. If I send y'all an OMG with like 1,000 exclamation points, and Bobby knows this too, that means, oh my God, I need to talk to you right now, freaking out.
Yes.
It's you're dyslexic and it's GMO.
Nuh-uh.
And she don't believe in dogs anymore.
And I sold my soul to Santa.
Not a bomb.
Oh, my favorite is when they say, "Get behind you, Satin." I'm like, "Oh, I like satin on my behind." Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard. I told Bobby. I think I might on the last. It might have been last week, but we were talking about satin. Now you got me saying satin, damn it.
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago when it was everybody was talking about the pre-show and the shave-in and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm like, I wish there was a Satan. I really do, because I think he's cool as shit.
Yeah, he's the one guy who didn't lie, and he like doesn't kill people unless God makes him. You know, like,
It's like he's trying to show everybody the truth.
Yes.
And God's going, "Oh no. That's the reason why you went to hell. That's the reason why I created hell for you, because you can't be telling people the truth.
You wouldn't obey my orders."
Don't be letting my secrets out the bag.
Exactly.
Well, folks, we should start winding it up. Is there any last comments anybody wants to get out before we wrap things up?
Fuck, just because I can.
Woohoo!
No, I don't mean that I'm going to fuck. I mean I've said the words because I can.
That's not what you said at the beginning of the show.
I know, I do have a debt I have to pay. Wait a minute, didn't I do that last night? Oh, I don't remember.
You did. Look,
If you have Bill Cosby around,
I'm going to start debating more pastors.
Cool.
Going to start having more red wine.
after we have a pastor on and Ashley has a bottle of red wine, that made for a very interesting night.
I bet.
We do put some things out.
I was like, damn, who are you?
I like this lady.
Color, look what happened. Shit, we're changing it again this week.
So you're gonna send Tommy a case of beer and thanks or something?
No, no, well, see, no, but what I did do, because Jerry DeWitt's the one that connected us,
Yes.
and I sent Jerry a text message today, and I said, well, your buddy Tommy was interesting. I said, but I don't think that I'll ever have him. I said he doesn't have the ability to answer questions. And Jerry typed back, he goes, yeah, I was kind of afraid of that.
Oh,
So Jerry kind of knew, but Jerry told me, he said, well, he's different. He's a unique character.
You got that right.
I'm like, okay, he can handle different. Well, you hear how that shit went.
Yeah, he said he wanted to debating, and he wanted to put him with Bobby so that maybe he could, get his...
Because I'm the nice atheist. I kind of ruined that.
Yeah, I don't think Tommy would have had quite as nice a ride on this show.
But you know what?
I have no patience.
In all actuality, though, we actually need the new preachers that are coming out and coming on shows like the Leeds and the Tommies, because we've had the Satin Broken Cakes, we've had the Nut Job,
William Lane Craig, and those dumbasses.
They say
Kirstein.
Yeah, well, we've had all those people, and yeah, I want to hear the people that are in it now. And the thing that I'm having a problem, and I think that Lee has a major cognitive dissonance going on, is because he does a show that's called Leave Religion at the Door.
Yes.
And then turns around and does the shit that he does.
Yeah.
Well, you heard my assessment in my rant where I was basically saying, yeah, you're one of those guys that I follow Jesus, but religion is bad.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's exactly what his game is.
Well, Bobby was telling me he actually thinks religion is not, that Christianity is not a religion. He thinks it's
it's a personal relationship with Christ or a philosophy, and they're getting that from Bill O'Reilly when he did an interview with, I think it was David Silverman. Yeah, and basically he point blank said, and I was going to pull the clip up for tonight and I forgot.
That's okay.
He basically said that no, it's not a religion, it's a philosophy, and that's, I don't know, I won't say it's a new tactic because it's actually an old tactic, but it's with anything with apologetics, in my opinion, there's nothing new in apologetics. Nothing.
Yeah, no.
That would work on their crowd.
Yeah. And I think you're right about getting these, quote, new preachers, because you have people like, Kevin Swanson is not new. He's new in the sense that he's getting the publicity now for being the vitriolic asshole that he is with his Stone the Gays. Same thing with Kevin Anderson. His protege is Donnie Romero. They're not new preachers per se, but these are churches that were shepherded. Anderson is part of the shepherding movement. He's actually gone and planted these churches, and these are the types of ministers that are getting the publicity. And it seems to be the independent fundamentalist Baptists and your charismatic preachers that are taking the step, that are embracing social media. Anderson, for as much as I can't stand him, he has really used YouTube primarily as a wonderful vehicle. He's an asshole and a fuckstain, and I'd like to bitch slap him. He's put out various I'll say documentaries, for lack of a better word, that are just atrocious, but he's reaching people. In fact, our friend Robert Beatty, who came on and spoke about Kent Hovind, Deanna Holmes was on with him, and she had said she had gone to Anderson's church, and I was reading something else related to, but not, and it's like, wait a minute. this guy was bragging about how his church was. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't this Anderson's? And it was Stephen Anderson's church. And she's like, yeah, I was there. And she actually has a picture of her with Kent Hovind.
Oh fuck.
And even though Hovind's old school, he is using social media to his gain, and I think that's where
he is.
What you're doing with, and I give you credit because I probably would last 5 minutes before I blew a gasket. I have no patience.
Well, we'll test that theory soon.
Yeah, just make sure I have either enough wine coolers or enough Xanax with me. I have no patience for debating religion. I get really frustrated. Like, I mean, I can do the homosexuality bit till I'm blue in the face. I mean, I've been doing that for so long that one doesn't bother me. But when, my favorite shtick is the whole, well, if you're a follower of Christ, then you're Jewish. And I lasted 5 minutes before I just was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I said, it got so bad I actually deleted one of our crazy groups because it was just like, these people are so freaking dumb.
Yep.
I'm like,
they're victims.
They are.
I'm really
a lot of them are.
And I'm trying so hard to think that way, but it's just this working.
Yeah.
I give you guys kudos for doing it because I couldn't do it. No way.
Well, now, Bobby, you're talking about taking on that guy who wants us to prove the contradictions.
Greg Locke.
Yes, Greg Locke. Yeah.
Prove the contradiction?
No.
Or debate contradictions.
Greg Locke did a video.
I've got a website for you. Sorry.
Greg Locke did a video on YouTube saying that he challenges any atheist, agnostic, scientist, evolutionary biologist, anyone who is willing to have a debate that there are no contradictions in the Bible. That
oh my God.
That the Bible is absolutely 100% correct. And there is nothing wrong in the Bible. And he says, if you're an atheist, I'm willing to debate you.
And he's taking you up?
Matter of fact, chances are, probably right now, David Smalley is recording with him for Dogma debate tomorrow. And I sent an email to his secretary to confirm him coming on our show on March 13th.
Oh, cool.
So
we'll see.
Yeah, he may or may not, but
because he's got a YouTube presence,
a huge one.
Yeah.
But you had said any closing remarks?
Yes, please.
The only closing remark I think I have for anyone who is listening: don't be afraid to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Have the conversation. Sure, they're going to piss you off. They're going to say things intentionally to what we in the South call "get your goat."
That's a win for them.
Right, but I think the conversation itself is very important because the bottom line is we all have to live here. We all have to share this country or whatever country you're in. We have to share it. So why not have the conversation and try to somewhat bridge a gap if you can? That way we can all kind of hopefully peace. So don't be afraid to have the conversation.
Yeah, and if you do have the conversation, you might not bridge the gap, but
no.
At least you had the conversation.
And don't go into it with the idea that you're going to deconvert them.
No, and that's
no.
That's something that I'm very cognizant of because I like to debate them on social media fairly regularly, and people always go, why you do that? Nobody's ever going to change their mind, and they are, it's so fruitless. And it's like, no, it's not about changing that guy's mind. It's about who's listening and watching and reading. And I've had people approach me and say, hey, I appreciate how you handled that discussion, or I didn't think of it that way before, or I was, kind of most of the way there, and now I've really got more to think about and all of that. So it's never about the whatever person you're debating with, be it a preacher or just some loudmouth on Facebook or whatnot. It's all about who's watching that.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Joseph,
So-
did you have anything else before we go?
Do I have to make a plug?
No, you don't have to make a plug. It's my show. I do all the plugging on my own shit.
Okay.
Okay, that can so get taken out of text.
Yeah, especially considering her, yeah.
My
Yeah.
water bottle.
Yeah.
He's like,
That's
"Do I have to plug?" No, I do all the plugging.
I'm not so into that.
With that being said,
Well,
heard the first
everybody, thank you guys so much. And who wants to take the plugging for No Religion Required?
We can let Bobby do it.
Okay.
I don't mind. Guys, you can catch No Religion Required live every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Spreaker.com. Come and join us in the chat room. You can find us on NoReligionRequired.secularmediagroup.com and Facebook and Twitter, No Religion R&Q.
Awesome. Beth, where do we find you?
Easiest way is on Twitter, Dune9998. I'm one away from 300 followers. Woohoo! Although that changes daily. I seem to gain and then lose. That's the easiest way. That connects with my blog. Also connects to Facebook, which is Havoc and Cass. Hopefully I will have a live segment sometime in the next week now that I'm feeling human again. And my blog also connects to Facebook, which is Beth A. Hambridge. Make sure you use the A or you'll get my vanilla page, which I do not post to. And I welcome any and all people to friend me. I like to
Yay.
talk.
Joseph, do you have anything you want to plug, even if you don't have to?
Well,
You don't have to. You don't have to
Susan,
plug it.
holy crap, and Atheist Apocalypse.
There we go.
Apocalypse.com. Yeah, I'm learning.
Woo. Excellent. And don't you have like a blog or something?
Oh, that's just my brain fart diary. You don't want to.
So if you want to find his blog, Google Brain Fart.
.com.
Yeah, .com. He is on Facebook though. You can find him there as well. Josef Stromburg.
Thank you.
You're welcome. He's the guy with the coolest stash around. Just so you know.
Hear that, Nick?
Yeah, well, Nick's down in Alabama now, so yeah, you're the best.
Mustache.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
taught him everything he knows. So
this is true.
yeah.
So we, of course, as Joseph said, there's always Holy Crap, the vlogcast, Sunday mornings at 12:05 a.m. Eastern, and they have a YouTube channel, and there's also, I think it's holycraptv.com. I don't remember. I'm sorry, Shu. That's your plug job.
That's at 5 o'clock in the morning for me.
That's, yes. So, Joseph, thank you so much for getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to come on the show. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Bobby, for jumping in with us on short notice. We appreciate that, too.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent.
I think
You're very welcome.
Weekend, didn't he?
Do what?
I
What's
think
that?
the Holy Crap cruise.
I am for episode 104. They are
Yes,
doing
with me.
Ash, I think.
We are, and I get to join you for that because we are, of course, the only other show that flies the Atheist on Air name. So I will be there with you. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Go for it. Go for it. You do it, Beth. You do it. Go ahead.
Well, although he has been on other shows, our guest next week will be Cash.
Yes.
And,
nice.
Woo-hoo.
That'll be fun.
Cash is a big inspiration for me, as I've mentioned. So when he disappeared from Facebook for a while, I was very, very disappointed, but I understand why. So I was ecstatic when he came back, and it actually was the first day he was back. I asked him if I went out on a limb. I didn't know where he was, on a personal standpoint, and asked him if he would be a guest on our show. So he will be with us next Monday. So it should be a really fun show, and I have no clue what we're talking about, and we're just going to let them run with it.
It'd
And,
be to hear Pastor Roy's take on a raccoon.
First of all, Cash,
It's a raccoon.
From behind.
Cash is one of those guys that doesn't need a topic.
No, he doesn't.
No. So
no.
I think next week you guys need to just be a free for all with Cash.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I'm gonna have like 2 days in a row of Cash next week. It's good, and it's my birthday. So, in fact, I told Cash that basically Beth had kind of arranged him as my birthday present, and he said he would be sure to wear his birthday suit under his clothes when he appeared on the show. And he followed that with "You're welcome."
Well, I think what makes Cash unique, and I think a lot of people will agree, is that a lot of the newer shows that we have, especially within the AOA community and the groups and stuff, are from Cash's inspiration. And I think, Bobby, you and Ashley have also inspired that in a way, too, because you were on some of the earlier shows as well. So I think in a way, some of the newer shows that we do have are direct offshoots from Atheists on Air. I mean, obviously we are.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But there's the reason I started the podcast.
Yeah.
That's what the Holy Crap's going to be all about this weekend too.
And I think it's important for Cash to know that, and that's one of the things I told him. I said, it's like I said in the beginning, if it wasn't for Cash, I probably would not be doing this for definite.
Yeah, he made it seem possible.
Yeah. Cash was one of those people I met at ReasonCon, and I thought, now look at this hillbilly son of a bitch, and he doesn't believe in God.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, when I first started listening to AOA, I was like, it took a while to grow on me, and the more I listened, and he had the one show that I called in, and then I think it was about 3 weeks later, a kid called in, and it's when I dropped the sane spirit and went back to my quote real name, which it is my real name. And I just finally said, fuck it. You know what? I'm sick of hiding. If people can't take me for who I am, for being gay, for being atheist, for having a mental illness, blah, 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 then fuck them. Fuck them all. And Cash and Bobby and Dave and Deb and everybody has all been part of that.
Yeah. It's kind of like that guy that criticized you there, Bobby, about Ashley. Like, yeah, fuck you, don't listen. I love that.
You know what? Them motherfuckers can kiss my ass. I am going to talk, I'm going to laugh, kiss my white ass.
I will later.
Okay. That's for after show, just so you know. All right, folks. Well, we need to wrap this thing up. So, again, thank you all for joining us on short notice. And we will be back here next Monday with Cash at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, as per usual. So I will close out the evening with our friend Dave motherfucking Foda's Humanist Creed.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.